If you want to participate, contact me at ordinarywomenpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure you have great projects to brag about. You can also follow me and message me on Instagram at Ordinary Women Podcast, on Twitter at Ordinary Women PC, or on Facebook on the page Ordinary Women. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Ordinary Women. I'm welcoming Ellie today. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. Very excited to have you here today. Can you start by giving us a quick introduction of yourself, please?
Yeah, so I'm Ellie. I'm 30 years old. I'm originally from Ecuador, but I've been living abroad for most of my adulthood. And today I'm joining you from Stockholm.
Amazing. So interesting. I hope that I'm sure we'll touch on that in at least some of the questions after. And can you tell us something unusual about yourself?
Well, I don't know how unusual this is, but I actually have 3 older brothers, and so I'm the youngest one, and we're all 2 years apart from each other. Like, not exactly 2 years, but almost exactly 2 years apart, each of us. So yeah, I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, that is a fun fact. Are you close with them?
Yeah. So they all live at home, and so I only get to see them once a year, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm definitely close with them, and I feel like growing up with 3 older brothers definitely shaped my life. One of them said that that's probably why I became a feminist, or one of the reasons.
That does make sense. Yeah. Obviously, on this podcast, we talk a lot about what it's like to be a woman. So I like to start by asking, was there a moment or an event in your life when you realized that you are a woman?
Yeah, so as a girl, I did realize that I was treated differently because I was a girl. So, like I said, I grew up with 3 older brothers, and so I could tell that people would treat us differently, like mostly in terms of, expectations on us and also safety measures. Like, I remember, my mom being very, very protective of me, like not letting me, get too far from her in public spaces. She would always make sure that I was, and I remember they were, kind of allowed to just go around and get farther away. But for me as a girl, I think she felt like I needed additional protection maybe, or she just wanted me to be as safe as possible. And so I knew that was because I was a girl, but I didn't have, like the words or the terms to describe what was going on. But I knew that it was a gender thing. So that's when I realized, like, just being raised in that scenario, which is, nobody's, particular fault or anything like that. I definitely don't blame my mom or anything like that. But I did notice that she would treat us differently. So that's how I realized that, that I was a girl, that I was a woman, and that the treatment of me and my brothers was different.
Yeah, and also I guess caring for your children is never a bad thing. Actually, my mom once almost got kidnapped, like not like this, but basically she has 2 brothers, and so the 2 brothers were giving the hands to my grandma, and my mom was still young. And yeah, like a guy basically like tried to kidnap her, and she's just like yelled so bad that the guy just like left. But that is so scary.
That is very scary. Yeah, that's it's just very infuriating how careful we need to be, like how extra careful we need to be, and like it shouldn't be on us, it should be safe for us to exist and be anywhere and not have to worry about these things. But I feel like we always have to take, like additional precautions or special precautions to stay safe, which shouldn't be a thing, but it's the reality. But that's so scary. Sure. So scary. I'm glad that she's okay, but yeah, that is very, very scary.
Yeah, completely. Also, I do think that we should learn more to yell, like scream, because like a scream throws off like everyone.
Yeah, I actually I took a couple of self-defense classes for women when I was in my undergrad university, and I remember that the first thing that they taught us was that it was like whenever they would teach us how to like punch or kick or push or whatever, we had to do it by yelling no. So whenever we would try to defend ourselves, we had to yell the word no as loud as possible. So I'm sure that there's a reason behind that, right? Like it's even in self-defense classes, that's what they teach, to yell.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And that's so cool that you've learned to do that. I hope you'll never, obviously, really hope you'll never have to use it. But yeah, that's really cool to learn, because obviously when you're it's type of that thing, which I guess you learn a lot in self-defense, and like basically almost creating habits on defending yourself. And yeah, because like obviously no one, like, if you're in a life or death situation, you're like, you won't be like, what could I do, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having that habit already built to scream is, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, no. It's hard to, like, it's, you never know how you're going to react in a situation. So like there's only so much you can prepare, but yeah, it's good to have some tools and some ideas on what to do just in case. But yeah, in the moment it's kind of difficult to know how you would react, but it's definitely good to have some knowledge. So yeah, that's why I've taken the class a couple of times, and I would take it again, to be honest, just to like continue learning. Yeah, but it shouldn't be necessary. It's like, it's just very infuriating that it's on us. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, completely. And did you grow up with any women role model?
I feel like yes, many. I mean, I grew up with a lot of aunts, and I also grew up with a lot of teachers who happened to be women. So I feel like I did have a lot of women to look up to and learn from. But I feel like, whenever I think about these, like kind of like inspirational figures and things like that, I think I always end up like thinking about my mom. Like I feel like she's always been and will always be like that person that I really admire, that I really appreciate. And I think it's mostly because of just her life story and how she is. So a lot has happened in her life, but one thing that happened to her and me is that my father, he passed away unexpectedly when I was a girl, and so my mom widowed when she was, I think, 47, so very young, and she widowed with 4 teenage kids, basically. So I was 11, and then my brothers were 13, 15, and 17. And like I said, it was unexpected. And so my mom, had to raise us, through her grief, and she had to figure things out on her own for, since my dad passed away. And so from her, I learned a lot about the importance of self-reliance in women, women's self-reliance, and also independence. And I grew up with her as a role model who was, very strong, very brave, very smart, very caring. And she's taught me a lot about, like I said, self-reliance, self-care. And I try to carry that with me, whatever I'm doing or whatever's going on with me, I try to think of her and all the things that I've learned from her. And like we both of us, we grew up as the only women in the household. And so we've created a very special bond. We have a very special relationship. And so I feel like a big part of who I am and where my life has, taken me, it's really thanks to her resilience and her support. I mean, she's been very supportive of my life choices, and she's always done everything that she can to support my ideas and my dreams. And so, I feel like I've learned a lot from her. And so, every time I think about, the women that I've grown up with or that I admire, I always come to her. I've written essays about her. I've written poems about her. Yeah, she's really great. So I would say my mom. But also, like I said, there were also a lot of other women around me, like my aunts and my cousins. So that was really great to grow up with them.
Yeah, your mom sounds absolutely amazing. I am so sorry for your loss as well.
Thank you.
Your mom sounds absolutely amazing. And what about today? Do you have other women role models?
Oh, I feel like it would be so hard to choose. I feel like I have a lot of friends and colleagues around me that I really admire and appreciate. And, because of my focus on gender issues for so long, I feel like I've been surrounded by really, really amazing women. I actually did this for a course about, I think this extra, it was called like the tree of the ancestors, like women ancestors. And so we had to kind of draw a tree and write down the names of the different women who have, been in our lives, or who have shaped us, or who we have learned from, in a personal level. And I remember my tree being so big, and this was many years ago, and I feel like if I redid the exercise now, it would be even bigger. So yeah, I would say that it's definitely difficult to choose, but there are definitely a lot of, especially in the work that I do, I feel like there are a lot of women leaders, like a lot of leaders who they lead nonprofit organizations, they lead really amazing projects and initiatives. And so I would say, yeah, like almost every woman in my network. So not just in my personal network, but also in my professional network. So yeah, I would say it's hard to choose.
That's amazing. That's so cool to have so many. Yeah, you must learn so much from all of them.
Yeah, I definitely do.
That's super cool. And do you think that the lack of representation of women in society had an impact on you?
Yeah, I would say so, because I feel like it was difficult for me to picture myself, as I was thinking about, growing up, like as I was thinking about what to do in the future. I feel like I didn't see like a diversity of roles or potential paths that I could take, because I didn't have that many examples, or like that many diverse examples of what I could do. Because like I said, I did grow up with a lot of women around me, but it was hard to figure out what I could do, because the roles and the life stories, yeah, it just didn't resonate with me as much in terms of what I wanted to do. So I feel like I really had to like kind of leave my surroundings and leave my country even, to really explore that further, and seek more representation, or more people that I could connect with or learn from. Because yeah, I feel like it wasn't enough, and it wasn't because of the women in my life, it was just lack of representation in general. And so I really had to seek that in other places, and sort of create that for myself, and really be very, very proactive. Until now, like I've been very proactive about like networking and connecting deeply with people, with women in particular, because yeah, I feel like it's we're not as visible or as represented. So it definitely impacted my life and my life choices, I would say.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And that's so cool that you proactively looked for inspirations.
Yeah.
Or like representation rather.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to jump on kind of the second part of this podcast and talk about something that you did, a project, achievement, life experience, whatever it is that you have done or are doing and are proud of. So, what do you want to talk to us about today?
Yeah, so, well, I feel like throughout my life, I mean, in the last, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, maybe, I've created a lot of projects, but I would say that one of the biggest ones would be a travel notebook that I actually self-published a few years ago. But it's not just a travel notebook. I mean, I feel like the travel notebook, it's a feminist travel notebook. I should start with that. It's a feminist travel notebook for women or my own. But I feel like the notebook itself is a result of a very long, thoughtful process, I would say, community process. So I guess, I don't know, I guess I could start by sharing a little bit like the history, or yeah, what would make more sense to start with.
Yeah, whichever felt like it makes the most sense for you. Maybe, yeah, the history sounds like a good beginning.
Yeah, okay, sounds great. So back in 2019, I had an interest in, this was early 2019, I had a special interest in the intersection between gender and travel. And so I did some research and found this organization called Wonderful. The website is sheswonderful.com, and wonderful with an A. And I joined the organization as a volunteer. And what I did is I started a local chapter in my city, in Quito, for women interested in travel. So it could be women who are visiting Quito, or women in Quito interested in traveling. So I created the community, and Women's Day was coming up in March. And so Wonderful invited the local chapters to organize like panel discussions about stories of women who have traveled alone. So it sounded like something that would be great to do in my city because I didn't really see anything about that. And so I thought that it would be a great thing to start. And so I literally just wrote a Facebook post to women who would live alone, and I was kind of expecting, maybe a few people because I was just planning to do one event. But then in less than a day, I had like more than 20 women who wanted to participate. And so what I did was I created a registration form for people who were interested in being panelists or moderators of the events. And then based on their responses, I started sort of organizing different events throughout various months. So from March to September of that year. And so we did, many events with different women, and there were always 3 panels and 1 moderator. And what we would do is we would always meet for coffee a few days before the event, and then we would come up with the questions ourselves, depending on what each woman wanted to share about. Because of course, each story was different, each experience was different, and each of the participants wanted to talk about different themes. So we would build the questions and the event together. Usually we would find questions that they could all answer to the same question, and then particular personalized questions for each of them so that they can kind of dive deeper to what they wanted to share about. So what started with a simple Facebook post and just one event turned down into this big thing. We did many events with more than 30 women in total, and we talked about so many different things. From mental health to motherhood to self-care, budgeting, activism, violence and harassment. Just so many things, because it was all of the events were based on many different stories, and so the topics that came out were very, very diverse and holistic, I would say. And so what I did was I recorded the audio of these events, and slowly I started, thinking about what to do with all of this content, because I felt like a lot of people were coming to the events and listening and enjoying them, but I really wanted more people to have access to what was being discussed. And so what I did was, I recorded the audios, and then I wanted to publish something that people could read in their own time. And, at first I thought maybe a PDF document or something like that, but that sounded a bit boring. And so I ended up with the idea a few months later to do a travel notebook where we could print, the quotes, the advice, the stories, and sort of organize it in a way that women can use it for their own travels. So the notebook has the same content, but then they can use it however they would like, or however it's relevant to them. So this was a whole process of almost between starting to write the content of the notebook, and then we had to how to print a travel notebook, and that required other tasks. But I'm very proud of it, because it became something much bigger than I thought at the beginning, and it was very participatory, and of that result of it is so tangible, something physical that people can purchase and carry with them and use it. So I'm just very, very proud of it. And the title of the events were actually titled hashtag Yo Viajo Sola, which means I travel alone. And it's actually, I chose that name because it's a hashtag that often becomes viral when a woman traveler is killed in Latin America, which has happened many times now. Who travel, they experience violence, and sometimes they're killed. And then society and the media blames them for traveling alone, saying oh, why would you blaming them for doing that, instead of blaming their killers. And so a lot of women use that hashtag to defend and protect why travel without violence and without prejudice. Those are the events. I was a great name to have this movement. And then the notebook is called Me Voy de Casa, which means I'm leaving home. The name comes from a song. Actually, it's from a song with the same name by Natalia Lafourcade. This is the project. I guess I would, but the story behind it.
This is so cool. That's so amazing. And I love that it started, and how it started from one idea and just evolved so much. That's so cool. How big were the events? Did people, I don't know, did people come to listen to other people talk as well?
Yeah, so we did them in this small cafeteria bar, and so we would usually do them on a Wednesday or a Thursday after work hours, or around 5 p.m. or later, I think. And yeah, so it was a small space, so it was intimate in a way, but they did get filled up. Like I would say that most events had like 15 people, 20 people max. It varied a little bit, but yeah, most of them were really full, and it was the majority women who would come. Like it was open to all genders, but it was mostly women who would come to listen, because some of them were planning to travel and they wanted to hear, women's experiences and tips, and others were already traveling a lot, but they still wanted to hear women's experiences of traveling. And each event had like a different topic. So some of them had like a geographic topic. So one of them was about Asia. One of them was about, I think, Latin America. One of them was about Ecuador. So, traveling nationally. That was also very special. And then we did one specific about migration. So 4 migrant women shared their stories of moving to Ecuador or migrating to Ecuador. So there was also that component of like seeing travel as something that is often a privilege, but then sometimes travel also means, a need for leaving an unsafe country or place. So yeah, I also realized like when I was doing all these events and, meeting all these people, it was such a big topic, right? Like it wasn't just like, oh, travel for fun. It was also a lot of like, violence and so many different topics. Like I said, mental health. Like so some people talked about traveling while having a specific mental health challenge or diagnosis. And so, yeah, just so many topics to discuss around something that, sometimes we think it's like became very, very like complex in a very positive way. So, yeah, I really enjoyed doing the events, and I'm planning to replicate them again this year. Yeah, because I really enjoyed them. It was really great space to create.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's so cool. And yeah, there is what you just said about like mental health reminds me of, I think it was a video I saw on Instagram of someone she was about to backpack and she was showing her bag, and it was just like contacts because basically she didn't know if she could like see, and she only had like, well, I don't exactly remember how it was, but it's so funny. I don't have like, I have glasses that I wear sometimes, but that's it. I would have never thought about that. It's so fun. Well, like in this situation, it's like kind of funny because yes, it's annoying, but it's also not that, I don't know, like it's not life-threatening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's all of these things we don't talk about. I also have like mental health issues, and my therapist makes my prescription from France, and it's always a battle to get them here when it's like super legal and super like normal and like authorized and stuff, but it's always complicated.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, that's also a very good point, and that's something that I'm struggling with as well, trying to get potential prescriptions here in Sweden if I see a doctor in Ecuador. And that's a whole other thing, right? Like something else that we could add on the second edition of the travel notebook is like, sharing advice or tips on how to manage that when you're traveling or you're migrating somewhere new, like how to get prescriptions when it's difficult to access them, and all of that. It's like there's so many things to think about that sometimes, they're not topics that are very present, but yeah, it's important to keep in mind and to consider. And that's also what I love about the notebook, is that it's very comprehensive. I mean, I hope that the second edition will be even more, comprehensive and holistic. And so I'll keep this in mind, what you just shared. Like, it's definitely something to include in these discussions.
Yeah, it's something, again, that you wouldn't, I don't know, you don't necessarily think about all of these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned the second edition. So what's the difference between the first and the second edition?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I didn't mention this yet because I feel like I had already shared so much, but a funny thing about the first edition of the notebook is that we published it in like January of 2020, which obviously was a very bad year to try to promote a travel notebook. So we published the notebook, and we did sell, several copies, mostly in Quito and Ecuador. And yeah, that was great. But this was during a time when I was actually in England doing my master's, and then the pandemic started. COVID. And so it was a very, very difficult time to promote travel and to try to sell the notebook and to try to expand the project. And so the project has actually been in like a very long pause. So all of 2020, all of 2021, and even 2022, it's been really hard to keep the project going, because like I said, first because of the pandemic, I left Ecuador, and then I was doing my master's, and then I moved to Sweden. And so that also kind of took, a lot of my attention and my time and my energy. And then I've been working full time, most of last year. So yeah, so we did the first edition before COVID based on the events that we did in Quito. And it's only in Spanish, that first edition. But now I'm finally ready to get back to it and to publish a new edition that has a little bit of more updated information about traveling, keeping in mind COVID. And the idea is to translate the second edition to English as well. So that will be a big difference. And also I'm kind of in this process of kind of differentiating between the content that should be on the notebook and the content that could just be on the website. So for example, resources like multimedia resources or Instagram accounts or things like that people can follow, or Facebook groups that they can join, all of that will be on the website. And then the notebook will be more focused on the rest of the content that is more like creative exercises, self-care exercises that people can draw or color on the notebook or journal on the notebook. There's a lot of different prompts. So yeah, I'm trying to differentiate these two types of content that I want the notebook to have. And then the other thing is that like I said, I want to replicate the events in Stockholm, maybe in Spain, because I'm going to be in Spain soon, and also virtually. So the idea is to have a more global perspective, so trying to have women from different countries and do the events in English. So it would be the first time that I do the events in English, because I definitely want to reach more people from my global network, because I feel like the first edition is very, very like local and specific to experiences of women who are from Ecuador or living in Ecuador. And so now that I'm in Sweden, I would love to include perspectives of women here and in Europe in general. So that the second edition will be, I guess, just different in all of those ways, from like language and global perspectives. And then hopefully we'll have more topics and more advice to share. And I think the more diverse perspectives, the better. So I do hope that the second notebook will be even more holistic. And I feel like from there's a lot that we can learn from the first edition. So if there's any small mistakes or things that could have been better, we'll keep that in mind for the second edition.
Yeah, that's so cool. And also, I guess once it's in English, that's even more people to share it with, especially when you're traveling, when you want to share it with foreign people, foreign cultures, etc. It's going to be so interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that, about making it more accessible and getting more women to share their stories. I think that would be really great. And I definitely want to use my different networks and communities to promote it and to get more people involved. And so I'm very excited. And the other thing actually is that right now is a very good time for me to get back to the project, because a few months ago, I actually applied to be part of this fellowship called The Break, which is for women living in the EU who have their own business or their own project. And so I applied in January and got in, and then the program started in March online. And so I've been learning a lot about business development, marketing, sustainability, stakeholder management, finances, all of these things that I don't really know much about. And so I applied to the fellowship with the notebook as my project. And so it's really, really the perfect timing for me to get back to it and try to relaunch the project after a 3-year long break. And that's also why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I really want to make an effort to promote the project more in Europe and globally.
Yeah, that's super cool. And actually, so you talked a bit about the content and the content, sorry. Mm-hmm. You talked a bit about the content of the book. Like you said that there are prompts and journaling activities and things. Okay, give me your elevator pitch. Why should people get the notebook?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think that people should get the notebook because it's a very tangible and physical thing to carry while you travel, and especially if you're traveling alone and maybe you feel, a bit scared or a bit nervous about being alone. The notebook is a bring in a way, even if we're not there in person. You can in the notebook, you will see our advice, our stories, all kinds of resources and tips on how to plan your trip. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend people to travel with it because it will help you feel less alone and maybe less overwhelmed. And it's a great tool to write down, your notes about where you're going, where you're staying, or any reflections if you want to journal during your trip and things like that. And like I said, it's very, very comprehensive. So I feel like no matter what your story is or no matter what your needs are, you will find something that will be relevant to you. So yeah, so there's a couple of pages about, traveling alone as a mom or traveling with kids as a mom and things like that. Like there's advice on how to budget for your trip. And yeah, I think it's just a really great way to travel with a very special tool that is, like I said, tangible. And there's even like at the end of the notebook, some like kind of leisure exercises that you can do. So there's like a Sudoku and like a crossword puzzle. So, if you're like bored in like the train or in the flight, you can do those. So it's a very like fun and nice thing to carry with you when you travel.
That's super cool. Do you know already when it's gonna be out? I really want one now.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very good question. So I really hope that we can have it before the end of the year. So I'm hoping maybe like October or November max, because yeah, like right now during the fellowship, I'll be working on the second edition. I'll be doing the new events, and then I'll be creating sort of like a whole kind of new website where we will have like an online shop where people can order it online, which I think will make things easier. We just have to figure out the whole like distribution and shipping and printing and all of that. But once all of that is ready, I'm sure that I can, finish the second edition and then translate it to English and then I'll probably do like a big, not big, but just like, some kind of launch event so that people can stay updated and buy it if they want. So yeah, definitely this year.
Amazing. Please keep me updated.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's so cool. And what challenges have you faced?
Oh, so many. Well, first, I will say that when we were ready to, sort of like, print the notebook and work on the notebook and have like the illustrations and all that, we needed money. But so we knew that we could make money by selling the notebook, but then we needed money to like produce it. And it was self-managed and self-published. So it's not like we had like a publisher or anything like that. So what we did was we did a it was like a pre-sale crowdfunding campaign where people could purchase the notebook in advance and then they would get the notebook after a few months. So I think we wanted to raise like $1,000 and then we ended up raising like half of it, so like $500. And then with that, we covered the costs of the illustrations and of the printing and the design of the notebook. So that was a challenge that I had, and I still have, it's like lack of resources and financial resources to cover the costs of the project. And then the other challenge that I kind of already mentioned was the pandemic. So I think that was the biggest one. And actually, I always tell this story, especially to Spanish speakers, but I'll share it here as well. And it's that when the pandemic started in Latin America and in Spain, this hashtag became viral, which is hashtag Yo me quedo en casa, which means I am staying home. So it's a hashtag that became viral and that people were sharing to encourage people to stay home and control the spread of the virus. And it's funny because the name of my notebook is the opposite of that. The name of my notebook is Me voy de casa. And so it was very funny to see this hashtag like everywhere on my social media. And I was like, oh, what a terrible choice of a name. So it was, now it's funny, but so the pandemic was definitely a big challenge. So I just had to learn to pause, to prioritize other things, of course, and then just wait for the right moment to start it again. I've definitely learned that timing is very important, and sometimes things don't work out in the way or in the time that we hope. So I just learned how to be patient and to not force things if things are not working out for any reason. And this was a very big external reason to take a pause. And so now that things are people are traveling again and things are different now, I'm ready, like I said, to get back to it. But I mean that challenge in particular didn't really have a solution, but just waiting it out I guess was the solution. But it was definitely a big challenge.
That makes so much sense. But yeah, I'm glad that now the second edition is coming.
Yeah.
And yeah. And was there anything that was easier than you thought would have been?
Um, yeah, well, like when I did that Facebook post, I thought that maybe I wouldn't have like that many people interested, and then it was actually very easy to get people to participate as panelists, as moderators, and as audience. So that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. And also when we were like organizing the events together with the panelists and the moderators, it became easier than I thought to like find commonalities or find shared topics that everyone wanted to discuss. It became very like fluid in a way, like very natural for all of these women to come together and share their stories, which was really great. Like a lot of the participants I knew from before. So like I had like a high school teacher of mine who participated in the first event. My former boss, who is, now my friend, she also participated in the first event. And then other people that were new. But yeah, we just, gathered and became close friends. And, people really had a lot of fun planning the events and doing the events. And so that was also a lot easier than I thought to, organize the events with people. It took a lot of like logistical planning and a lot of work in that sense. But I feel like the content of the events and the questions and the stories came out very naturally and easily, I would say.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I know you touched a bit on this at the beginning, but why are you proud of it?
Well, I am proud of it because, well, many reasons. I feel like, when I started this project, I was kind of in a difficult place in my life. I was recovering from things that had happened, before that, and I was kind of trying to take a break, but take a break and rest, but I also wanted to stay involved and stay, like organizing things that were related to feminism and women's rights. And so I'm proud that I continued with this kind of work, even if it wasn't like, in a traditional job or anything like that. I feel like I still created something that was even more powerful because it was my own and I could do it in my way. And yeah, so I'm very proud that I didn't let my personal challenges from that time stop me from continuing doing this kind of work. And yeah, and I'm also very proud of the fact that I have also included myself a lot in the project. So in the event, it was always other women participating, but then I did share my stories in like the last event, like in the pre-launch event. I shared my story and I was very vulnerable. I even cried in the stage, and I shared stories of like sexual violence and mental health challenges and things like that. And so I'm very proud that I included myself in the project. And then in the travel notebook, I wrote the prologue. I don't know how to say it in English, but the beginning of the notebook is like kind of like my story and my reason to start the project. And so yeah, I'm just very happy and proud that I was able to really share about myself and include myself in the project and be very open and vulnerable, or as much as I could, I guess. And yeah, and like I said, it became something bigger than I thought it would. So I'm very happy about how it evolved and how it has changed and how much potential it has, especially right now that I'm like in this fellowship and trying to make it more accessible and more global. I'm very happy about that. And lastly, I would also say that I'm very proud that, the notebook is based on stories of different women. Like it's not just, my story, or it's not just, a few people. It's really, really inspired by and based on so many different people and people who might maybe not tell their travel and migration stories if it wasn't for this space and this project. So yeah, I'm just very happy about the voices that the project is amplifying and the stories that is sharing. And yeah, and then also the creativity aspect of it. It's I feel like I've definitely been using my creativity a lot for this project, like just the fact that it ended up being a travel notebook and everything, about how like the names of the projects and all of that. I'm very proud of like the creative aspect of it as well.
That's so cool. Definitely so many reasons to be proud of it. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of
I
course.
think we're gonna conclude on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to be out. And yeah, thank you so, so much for sharing all of this. Is there anything that we haven't had a chance to talk about during our discussion that you wanted to mention?
No, I think it's all, yeah, I think everything has been said. I mean, I'll definitely, encourage people who are listening to reach out, to look up the project. And if anyone wants to share their story or get involved in any way, definitely let me know. Yeah, I think I would just add that.
Thanks. I'll put all relevant links in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah.
And there is a tradition on this podcast that the guest always gets the very last word. So the mic is yours.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to end with a quote that actually is in the beginning of the prologue of the notebook. So it's a quote by Mona Eltahawy. She said, "The most subversive thing a woman can do is talk about her life as if it really matters, because it does." So I just want to end with that and, encourage women to tell their stories and to, really share their life stories because they matter. And I think that that's also what this podcast is about, right? Like sharing our stories, sharing our ideas because our life matters. So I'll end with that. It's an amazing quote. I really like it.